Well, you're telling everybody else to sell theirs. You're a climate extremist, aren't you, Professor?
Certainly not, Senator.
You are a political extremist, aren't you?
Certainly not, Senator.
And that to Senator Kennedy of Louisiana.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dr. Keyes, Professor Keyes, are you clairvoyant?
Thanks for the question, Senator. No, I'm not.
I'm not either. So when you make predictions, these are my words, not yours. When you make predictions that climate change is going to destroy home ownership and the insurance market and otherwise cause the earth to spin off its axis, those predictions are made on the basis of climate models, is that right?
The forward-looking forecasts are based on models. My discussion was retrospective and focused on the data we've collected over the last 5 years.
If those models are wrong, then your predictions would be impacted, wouldn't they?
Senator, I would say that the famous quote is that all models are wrong, but some are useful. And in this case, there's a preponderance of evidence that suggests the direction that climate's headed.
Methanethiol?
I'm not aware of that term, Senator.
I'm surprised. I've read a lot of your writings. You seem to fancy yourself as a climate expert.
Senator, I'm an expert on housing markets, mortgage markets, and insurance markets. I'm not a climate scientist.
If I told you that methanethiol is a sulfur-based aerosol gas, kind of smells like rotten cabbage, that is produced by microscopic plankton in all of our oceans, which cover 75% of the Earth's surface. Would you have reason to disagree with me?
I certainly wouldn't, Senator. I'm here to talk about insurance.
If I told you that this methanethanol is an aerosol, which escapes into our environment, it oxidizes and produces particles that substantially reflect the sun's radiation and heat and prevents climate change. Would you have a reason to disagree with me?
I wouldn't, Senator. I'm here to talk about the insurance crisis.
I know you don't want to talk about things that undermine your confident assertions, but this is important. The Institute of Marine Sciences and the Cabrera Institute of Physical Chemistry just a few days ago published a startling study. It's being widely reported. And it found that while scientists in these climate change models on which you rely have always known about methanethiol, that now science has discovered ways to better measure it, and that it appears, not appears, it demonstrates that there's 25% more methanethiol being released into our atmosphere than any scientist ever thought. And that's going to have a huge impact on cooling the Earth, and we're going to have to recalibrate all of our climate change models. I suggest you read it, Doc. I see this essay that you wrote in the New York Times, appropriate New York Times. Climate change should make you think home ownership. Did you write that?
Yes, I did, Senator.
It's pretty bold. You own a home?
I do, in a flood zone.
Have you sold it?
Have I sold my home?
Yeah.
I live in my home, sir.
Oh, well, you're telling everybody else to sell theirs. You're a climate extremist, aren't you, Professor?
Certainly not, Senator.
You are a political extremist, aren't you?
Certainly not, Senator.
On July 9th of 2024, did you tweet the following quote? Honestly, the biggest long-term political problem the Democrats have is that they don't know how to talk to low-information morons. Close quote.
I don't believe those are my words, Senator. I'd have to be able to see them if you would share that with me.
Yeah, here it is, big as Dallas.
I don't believe those are my words, Senator.
You tweeted them.
I don't believe that I did.
Yes, you did.
I may have liked someone else's tweet or retweeted someone else's tweet.
You
Those
often
are not my words.
like tweets you don't agree with?
Those are not my words, Senator.
Yeah, but you tweeted them in approval, didn't you? You
Those are
can't
not-
make this cat walk backwards, Professor.
Those are
On
not
July
my,
16th,
those are not my words, Senator.
2024, did you tweet the following quote? A big part of modern right-wing culture is this frisson of the illicit. The reading of this or that writer or account that are outre in whatever ways, fascist, race IQ obsessives, Holocaust denial adjacent, people with very weird sexual fixations and pathologies they turn into their own philosophy, etc. A lot of them, and I think this is true of Vance, and definitely true of the creepy Silicon Valley MAGA weirdos, have simply pickled their brains, end quote.
Again, Senator, those are not my words, and I did not
Tweeted
tweet
them, Professor.
I did not tweet that, sir. Those are not
Senator
my
Kennedy,
words.
I mean, let me make this last point. You've got
for more
a lot
than
of
2
nerve.
minutes over your time. We
You've
have
got
other
a lot of
senators
nerve,
waiting.
Professor, coming
You
here
always go over your time
and,
so that I have to call it
and lecturing
for
us
you.
about Holocaust denial
But
being
really,
from the University of Pennsylvania.
You have other senators who are waiting for their time, and you're well over yours.
Thank you for your indulgence, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Kane.
And so this hearing ends not with closure, but with a question suspended midair. A senator staring across a witness table and saying the words, "You're a political extremist, aren't you?" The tone was not casual. It was not rhetorical flourish. It was accusatory in its construction and existential in its implications. The witness denied it, calmly, repeatedly. But the gravity of the moment is not about whether the senator believed the denial. The gravity of this moment is what it reveals about how power interrogates knowledge in America now, and how Congress interrogates the future itself. Because this didn't begin as a culture war exchange, it began in a quieter, more technical way, with the senator asking about models, about climate forecasting, about prediction, about whether the ability to foresee catastrophic systemic outcomes is an act of clairvoyance, or the sober interpretation of pattern and data. The witness said he was not clairvoyant. The witness said he was relying on the data he studies: housing markets, insurance markets, mortgage dynamics, the measurable financial consequences of environmental change. And then the room shifted. The senator introduced not just skepticism, but epistemic warfare. He cited new marine aerosol research. He invoked measurement uncertainty. He invoked massive cooling offsets. He argued that the very foundation of climate prediction may be wrong, and then he traveled from models directly into the witness's social media, into digital identity, and into accusation. The jump from climate to politics was not a drift. It was a direct and intentional acceleration. Because in this era of Senate interrogation, the question is no longer merely whether your models are correct. The question is whether you are morally permissible to trust with the future. In this hearing, we watched the collapse of categories that used to remain separate: science, economics, public risk, academic analysis, personal ideology, digital discourse, all blurred into one singular confrontation. This is the moment where fact and political identity are now fused in ways that Congress can no longer easily separate. And this is dangerous territory, because the American system depends on our ability to disagree about data, while still trusting that our institutions are not hunting for heresy. These hearings are reminders that our constitutional machinery requires us to believe that knowledge can be contested without collapsing into existential loyalty tests. The witness tried again and again to recenter the discussion back on the insurance crisis, the thing he actually came to testify about, but the hearing escaped his control. Because this is not just about the witness. This is about the Senate telling America that in the era we now inhabit, the battle is not just over the facts themselves, but over who gets to define the frame of reality in which those facts are interpreted. And yet the witness was not outraged. He did not rage. He did not counterattack. He did not mirror fire with fire. He did something almost radical in a moment engineered for spectacle. He stayed dispassionate. He insisted that the words he was being accused of posting were not his. He insisted that retweets do not equal authorship. He insisted that he is not a political extremist. And the hearing ended not because the conflict resolved, but because time ran out. Because in the structure of the Senate, the clock remains the final arbiter when reason no longer can be. This hearing reveals the deeper truth of democratic government. The Senate is not merely a chamber of lawmaking. It is a chamber of meaning-making. It is where emotional narrative tries to overpower data, where metaphor tries to overpower methodology, where identity tries to overpower nuance. It is where one senator can turn a scientific dispute into a loyalty referendum on live camera, with the entire country watching. And that matters for every viewer watching this moment unfold, because climate is not merely a scientific question, it is a structural fact shaping markets, underwriting, valuation, migration, municipal solvency, and national security. It is not optional, it is not theoretical, it is not a cultural symbol. And hearings like this are the place where America decides, in public, whether we are capable of having evidence-based government in a post-trust era. This is why hearings matter, because they force America to choose between two paths. One path says evidence can be interrogated without moral annihilation of the person presenting it. The other path says that to question the assumption set is to question the legitimacy of the witness itself. This hearing sits exactly on that knife edge, and in that emotional tension, the nation is split. Do we choose epistemic humility or epistemic purity test? The witness leaves the room still claiming he is not an extremist. The senator leaves the room convinced he has exposed one. Both narratives walk out intact, and the country must decide which narrative it believes without ever being given the comfort of certainty. That is the moral paradox of our political moment. America must learn again how to argue about models without turning every disagreement into a character tribunal. Because if we lose the ability to argue about facts without destroying the people presenting them, then democracy collapses not through force, but through epistemic exhaustion. We end here tonight with this closing reflection. The future is not chosen by those who shout loudest, but by the ones who can still separate evidence from identity and still demand truth in the presence of disagreement. This is the Congress Brief. Subscribe to the Congress Brief